Hello, and welcome back to Living a Culture of Life podcast by Human Life International. I'm your host, Colleen, and today I have a great episode to share with you. Actor Austin Peck joins the show today to share his conversion story and to discuss a project that he has been working on with the creators of Mass of the Ages entitled Discover Tradition. Essentially, Discover Tradition is a travel show which highlights different Catholic traditions around the world. As always, if you're listening on our audio platforms, please pause right now and leave us a 5-star review and subscribe to the show. And if you're listening on our YouTube channel, please like and share this video and subscribe to our channel so that you can get new episodes every Thursday. Without further ado, please welcome Austin Peck to Living a Culture of Life. Welcome to the podcast, Austin.
Well, thank you so much, Colleen. I hope you're doing well today.
I am doing well. I hope you're doing well as well. And today, could we just start this episode by you telling our audience a little bit about who you are and then about the project that you're here to talk about? Because you have a very exciting project that I'm excited to hear more about.
Okay. Well, I'm an actor by trade. I've done everything under the sun. The only thing I really haven't done is, I guess you'd say, would be like a big budget film. Mm-hmm. But I'm mainly known for the work I've done on television. Like shows like Days of Our Lives, Chicago Fire, As the World Turns, One Life to Live. And I've been doing it almost my whole life. And then I was a Protestant for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. I had like a born again experience in my mid 20s while working on Days of Our Lives. Not while working on Days of Our Lives, but during that time, my first year, and became, one of those stereotypical evangelical Christians who would meet people and say, is Jesus your personal Lord and Savior? Which is nothing wrong with that, but looking back at it, just a lot of zeal and passion and very little discernment. Mm-hmm. And then my coming into the faith was a 15-year journey. I would say what led me to Christ was a search for truth. And I was presented with Protestants' best attempt at answering the questions that I were presented. It's a conflict of what I was hearing, what I was reading in scripture into theology. And then when I was introduced to Catholic theology, it answered these questions very clearly. So it was really the Bible that led me into the Catholic faith.
Yeah.
And then, which is, both are two significant revolutions in one life. And in realizing becoming a Catholic, that ultimately what I was before becoming a Christian, a born again, and even afterwards is hedonist. Mm-hmm. So it became a hedonistic Christian, because there's really no authority by which to kind of divert you away from that except your own, mm-hmm. Your own interpretation. So being under the authority of the church that Christ established has definitely been a truly revolution in my life.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. And then I came in contact with Cameron and Dan and Tony and all these wonderful men who've got this fire for God and wanting to communicate the gospel to the truth to people.
Yeah. So you're working on a project with Mass of the Ages for basically a documentary about Holy Week in Spain. Is that correct?
Well, that's one episode. That's the first episode. Okay. We desire to do a lot more. And really, ultimately, what it's about is discovering tradition. Is that, you have the three pillars of the faith, tradition being one of them. And it's the lens by which we view our faith. But in each culture, there's a different tradition. So when we went to the Andalusian region in Spain, the way they celebrate is very specific to their culture, which is extremely old. It just intertwined and interwoven into their culture. You can't separate them from their Catholic history, from their tradition, how it guides and leads them. But then also, so really ultimately what the show is about, it's it's about a journey. It's a pilgrimage to discover tradition, which is very unique to my own conversion into the faith, because I my family both parents come from very Catholic families, but very little of the family in the next generation has actually adhered to the faith. So my experience of the Catholicism was it was very shallow and dry. And for me, coming into the faith why is that? Why is it I met so many Catholics that didn't seem to have an understanding of what I was learning about the Catholic faith? And so there is it's that was something that I was on that journey personally. And then it's interesting because it's a next step into going into the cultures, whether it be Spain, right, or Semana Santa, or France, or Poland, or England, wherever it is, because in my very strong opinion, it's Catholicism that built Western society, Western culture, and all the freedoms and all the things that, well, it seems to seem most people take for granted, comes from that.
Yeah.
And getting people to understand, hey, this is like who you are.
Hmm.
This is your tradition. And I think in modern times where it seems tradition is treated as something that is negative, I think that that's actually a diabolical psyop. It's a
Hmm.
gaslighting that people have come to just accept that anything of the past is just inherently bad.
Hmm.
Anything of tradition is bad. Um, and it's everything good must be progressive in the future and new. And that means we have to get rid of what was in order to discover something that we have even no idea. It's like ethereal. It's like you can't even grab onto it. Whereas when we were in Spain, the faith is tangibly, it's everywhere, right?
Hmm.
Visually, sensorially, it was everywhere we went. Um, and then I think it's a desire is to get people to see, hey, this is who you are, like this is your faith, because
Yeah.
that's the way I felt. Even though I don't speak English, I mean, don't speak Spanish. As soon as I saw the imagery,
Hmm.
whether it be walking down a street and seeing a church or seeing something that was just like like a little shrine, something that was just set off to like to honor Our Lady or to honor a saint or to honor our Lord, um, I instantaneously felt connected to it.
Hmm.
And I think that's what our faith is about. So, I mean, what you're going to experience some of these different in Poland, it's going to be different in France, based upon the culture. But as Catholics, that what binds us together.
Hmm.
And I think as Catholics, they need to rediscover
Hmm.
what it is, because that's ultimately what's going on in Europe.
Like,
They're losing their identity
yeah.
because they've left their faith.
I feel like, well, on the flip side of that too, I feel like there's a special importance for American Catholics too to rediscover this European traditions that have been going on for so long. Because in America, we can often feel untethered from that element of our past, even while while being faithful Catholics. And I think just recognizing that these traditions have existed for so long in Europe and then being able to take that and say, okay, what traditions can we start developing here so that 800 years down the line, our children's children are practicing the faith and carrying on the faith as well.
Yeah, well, if you don't, because the dogmas of our faith, the non-negotiables, they're directly connected to tradition, right? As a Protestant, like there was a slow boil for me. Certain things I woke up to. Uh, I like to say, if you want to play a great drinking game, bring a bottle of whatever and a shot glass, and go to a Bible study. And every time you hear the phrases "I think" and "I feel," take a shot, and you're going to be wasted in about 10 minutes, because it's really like when I talk to my Protestant brothers and sisters, whom I love and deeply respect, so much of it is based upon that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Bible says, according to you, because all I know is last night at the Bible study, John and Jim and Tina were disagreeing with you. So what's the defining factor? Well, it doesn't matter because, we disagree upon these things and everything else is negotiable. That's not God. That's not how God has revealed himself. I'm not the author of confusion being one. And I can't think of anything more confusing than everybody getting to decide based upon how they think and feel, which the Bible warns us about. How that would just cause confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the things that led me to it. And I think that's going on within the church today, where you have so many Catholics that have no idea what their history is. They have no idea what their tradition is. They have no idea what the truth is. They have no idea. I've had conversations with friends of mine who are Catholic, and I listen. I'm a hot mess, right? I'm not biased. I am. One of the most significant thing that becoming a Catholic has done for me is really just honestly put me in my place. Um, because I remember one time I used to think, when I was full of emotion and fire, that I really had it going on spiritually. And when you come in contact as a Catholic, you come in contact with the saints. You just realize there are such levels to this thing that is in, on it just there's levels,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not even close. But it shouldn't stop me from talking to a fellow brother in Christ and saying, "Hey, you're supposed to go to mass every week, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you go to mass, you should examine your conscience, right? I mean, these are like that's right. It's like it's not a negotiable thing because you're tired and because there's a game, because you got to go shopping, which you're not supposed to do anyway. Like that's not a negotiable. It's not like, well, I think, I said, now you're sounding like a Protestant. No, it's not you think, right? It's the way it is. And there's what does that do? It's like Jesus says, be like me, for I'm meek and humble of heart. So humility is submitting and knowing your place. Jesus, in his humanity, put himself in a particular place and submitted himself to humanity, all the while having access to his divinity. He just said, I'm going to do what you want me to do, Father, but never not being 100% divine. Like when they went to stone him, he just walked right through the crowd. Just, no, it's not my time. Just right. And it's like, okay, now you can arrest me, right? Now you can touch me. So the show is positively bent on the beauty of the cultures. When we were in Spain, it was the beauty and the tradition of the Spanish culture, its expression of Catholicism during a very significant time in their culture, which is Semana Santa.
Mm-hmm.
Very different than it is here. And the focus is different. And then in every city, they have these cofradías, these uh, confraternities, these orders.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of them has their own charism, their focus. And some are old, some are new, some are big, some are small. And they have these floats that some are hundreds of years old, and the craftsmanship in them, the artistry in them is really second to none. So here we are putting our our artistry, our effort into expression of faith and artistry that should be present in our faith.
Mm-hmm.
And then culturally, people come out to watch these processions. And there's a penitential aspect to it because they're, so, the Nazarenos, which are the ones that wear the what we would say Ku Klux Klan looking outfits. This came way before that. That's nothing. Of course, I asked some of the people. Okay, I have, as an American, I have to ask. they could care less what we think about it. And I would absolutely agree that they shouldn't care anything.
Hmm.
But for our audience, that is something, it's a penitential thing. It has to do with humility, it has to do with anonymity, it has to do with not focus on self and talking to people who have walked barefoot the whole time they're praying. Um, the processions can be up to like 8 hours
Hmm.
long in the heat. They're thirsty, they're hungry, they're tired. Um, and it has to do with the passion of Christ. And like we stated in it's art in the streets.
Mm.
It's our faith being present, being seen within the culture. It's very unique to Spain. And that's what we're trying to show in this particular show. And what we want to do in other places is because I don't go in there. I am far from an expert,
Hmm.
just very curious and very open to experiencing. So we talked to different people. The first person we talked to um, was a man that owned a winery that used to be a monastery. It's 2,000 years old, over 2,000 years old. It originally was the Romans, and then I think it was the Moors, and then it became a monastery, and now it's a winery. And here, right where the altar was, there's this these big barrels of wine. You know, so there's an aspect of that, seeing the modernity, seeing how they pitched together with some other partners, and you know, we come and actually see it and see the frescoes.
Mm. Yeah.
At the same time, the it's now a winery, and uh, we had dinner, and he was not a believer,
Hmm.
and he had very strong opinions about what tradition is, seeing it more as a hindrance.
Mm.
So we had an interesting exchange, and so yeah, we went from town to town, really on an adventure.
No, that sounds wonderful. I recently returned from Rome and Paris, and it's just, I've been in a few places in Europe, and it's always so stunning to see how different cultures built these beautiful works of art, these beautiful churches. They filled them with all this art in the style of their distinct culture, but all for the glory of God. And there's something we had recently on the show HLI's regional director from Europe, and he was saying that one thing he'll often say is that Catholics are the most French of the French, they're the most English of the English, they're the most Polish of the Polish. Basically, that when you have the faith and then you're expressing it through art, through your culture, it brings this beautiful tradition up into God and builds the tradition as you're going along. But it's just such an interesting idea that you're going to really make your culture be most alive when you're practicing and incorporating and building your culture integrated with the faith.
Yeah, I wonder what there was one point in when we went to this Grand Poder, which is called the Great Order. It's the largest in Seville. I think one of the largest in Spain,
Okay.
if not I don't know, but they have like 15,000 members, and it's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. So in the morning, they all line up. Everyone's dressed, suits. I felt very underdressed, and to go into their basilica to get a close-up look at the floats,
Hmm.
the pasos, and so we had to they're very um, trepidatious of visitors, but because of Mass of the Ages, that really opened the door.
Hmm.
So, because it garnered some trust, but we still had to kind of wait, and they were questioning,
Hmm.
and then finally we got to go inside and look at everything, and afterwards there was a sadness that I was really struck by, a kind of a grief. I always define myself as an American. I've been fortunate to travel a lot. Like I've been to Rome 5 times, but I never went to the Vatican. I wasn't a Catholic. It was like, that, you know. I've traveled a lot in Europe and around the world, but being there and seeing the formality and the cohesiveness that the people had as a people, as a culture,
Mm-hmm.
kind of homogeny, the thing that they were centered around, which was the faith. And then thinking about in America, what are we centered around? And it's difficult not being finding myself being very judgmental and rash when I think about it. This Americanism, and again, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, you know. But we do have a kind of it's like I'm from LA and I love LA. I from Hollywood to Santa Monica, you know. I used to ride my bike to Hollywood Boulevard. There was a big toy store right there. I don't even know if it's still there anymore. Go to the YMCA right below Hollywood Boulevard, which is now closed down. Went to Santa Monica High. So everything that everybody says about LA is 100% true, right? It's true. It's pretentious. It's shallow. It's childish. But it's definitely it's definitely the most entertaining city I've ever lived in my life. And I know how to live there without involving myself in that stuff. That stuff can be very entertaining. So everything they say about Americans is true. It's true, right? But there's something so special about this country that I think that people are really losing out on. And in the same way that Catholics are just losing out on like who you are and what you have.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the spoiled child that doesn't understand how well they have it. They
Yeah.
need they need a proper context. They need to be around people who are struggling and suffering in ways that they've never had any connection to. That will really give you a good perspective as to what you actually have. And I think as Catholics, as Americans, we really need that. And when I was overwhelmed with sadness, seeing this cohesiveness, seeing this center, this place, this culture this connected kind of connectivity, and realizing how splintered we are, as a nation. And really, I think it spans from the concept of just individualism, uh, unchecked.
Mm-hmm.
Unchecked individualism. It goes back to what I originally said. Like, becoming a Catholic has realized that like they're in that God is about establishing a kingdom, and when He says kingdom, it's not general. It is actually very specific. And so, in a kingdom, of any kingdom, there is an order of things, and knowing what your place
Mm-hmm.
is very important. So as a layperson, I can, I know my place. Whereas an American is like, we're all amazing. Yeah, maybe. Not really. I mean, to God, yes. But in the scheme of no, like, you know what I mean? No, you're not. And there's something actually very uh kind of comforting about that. Knowing your place. What I'm saying is what the show is about. It's about going on a journey to discover what is true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the foundation of Western culture?
Mm.
and how and in America we really don't understand exactly where it all comes from. And in
Yeah,
Europe,
that's true.
they're losing their identity and they're giving it over to Marxism. They're
Yeah.
giving it over to modernism for the sake of modernism because they've been duped by, the people who just desire power and are just playing their emotions. It's really Marxism.
Yeah. Did you find when you were over there that the people participating in these rich traditions of Semana Santa, that they were practicing Catholics and this was an acting out of their faith, or that it was something they were involved in culturally but didn't necessarily have the faith to kind of bring life to it? Because I think there's the stereotype of like, oh, well, I'm culturally Catholic, but and we see that a lot in America. You see that a little bit sometimes in like Hispanic cultures, and especially those who have moved to America, where they love Our Lady of Guadalupe, but they don't go to church on Sunday. And so, what was the attitude of the people who were taking part in these celebrations?
Well, and very much what you just said, from what I see, because I
Hmm.
saw the same stuff going on there. I was watching TV. It's all Spanish, but there was a woman that was dressed in a habit, and she was a comedian. I could just tell that she was a comedian, and she was acting so
Hmm.
bizarre. And it was clear to see that it was mocking.
Hmm.
It was mocking. And then there was, a representation of all the LGBT stuff. So they have the same stuff that's going on
Hmm.
there. And it's pretty progressive. I think that in many ways what they do is they look down upon the concept of like really truly actually having faith. So there is a difference of this is our culture, this is
Hmm.
our tradition, but they're almost what it looks like from my perspective is completely two different things. There's
Hmm.
faith, belief, practice, there's culture.
Hmm.
And they really don't have anything to do with each other.
Yeah.
So we want all this kind of beauty, we want the artistry, we want the good feeling stuff.
Hmm.
It's like the people that focus all on God's mercy, love, forgiveness stuff, and
Hmm.
then completely forget the fact that he's a just judge and
Hmm.
and all these things. He says the beginning of wisdom starts with the fear of God. So uh yeah, I think it's very true. It's very, very, very true.
And as a follow up to that, then what, I guess, benefit do you think there's still a benefit, something good about taking part in these traditions, even if someone is viewing them purely as cultural without the faith? Do you think that that could hopefully lead them closer to Christ in the end? Or do you think that they'll kind of end up with everything being siloed, where this is my culture and God's over here?
Well, they're going to lose their culture.
Okay.
Done. If the my you I'll tell you my opinion. It's my
Yeah.
opinion. If they don't come back to their faith, your culture's gone.
Mm.
Like that's not a debate. Like I'm gonna say it like literally 2 plus 2 is 4. It's
Mhm.
done. You're gone. Everything you love about your faith, everything you love about your culture, being Spanish, being French, being English, is gone. It's gone. Italian, gone. Your language, your everything is gone. And that is an absolute definitive statement. It's gone if you don't come back to your faith. Period. Done. End of story. And that I can't, I mean, I'm not even, I wouldn't even debate it.
Mhm.
That's a fact. The only answer, if got either it's true, right? Or
Mhm.
it's not. If it's true, if you don't come back to your faith, you're done. I don't care how it sounds. I don't care how I look. I don't care. That's a fact. You're done. Hey, Spanish, Portuguese, Polish, everyone, whatever you love about your culture,
Mhm.
you're being sold out by modernistic Marxist thinkers who are selling you a faulty bill of goods, convincing you that a hedonistic, modernistic lifestyle is the only way to go. Because ultimately, if you don't, you're not going to fit in with what is cool, hip, and what is cool and hip,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
If you do that, it's all about this is evil, this is bad, the past, tradition, And this is good if you want to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm, that's my first in interview. When I first did an interview with Cameron, Dan, and Tony at Mass of the Ages down in Nashville. So funny. I called him my friend Thomas Shannon. He said, "Oh, it was after Michael Knowles came on, and I was like, hey, did you watch it?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, how did it go?" And he was like, it was kind of like a hand grenade. I was like, what? I was like, yeah, it's kind of like, again, I can only think the way I think. I can only be the way I am. I can't be anyone else than who I am. So the thing is, what this show is about, it's about me going on a journey to discover tradition.
Yeah. It's
And that
funny.
means all of this, right? That's what it means. So it's
Yeah.
like, it's about, and to make it fun, to have play. I'm not going there as an expert. I'm not
Mhm.
going there as, I'm going there as someone, hey, I want to figure this out along the way.
I think that also highlighting the different traditions of different cultures helps like each individual watching it, seeing these different, oh, this is how this culture celebrates it, this is how this one does. It gives you permission to take ownership of what is my flavor? Like, what traditions do I want? What is important to me? What resonates with me? What doesn't? When you see everyone else doing different things, it gives you permission to be different versus if you're only ever exposed to one particular way of like celebrating, like taking part in the faith. If you only ever see one saint's feast day being celebrated and you never see the like 364 others, then you you can't necessarily
Sounds a
find
lot like God,
consistency.
doesn't it? It sounds a lot like Jesus, doesn't it? He's like, it sounds a lot like a God that made millions of different biological creatures,
Mm-hmm.
made different seasons and trees. Sounds a lot God like God who likes variety,
Mm-hmm.
differences. He didn't make everyone to be the same. Just like he didn't make it's like cultures are all different, but the unifying factor is him. The unifying factor is the mass. The unifying factor is the faith, the sacraments. The unifying factor is the fact that, like, I have 5 kids. I love all my kids. They're totally different. Am I
Yeah.
asking each one to be the exact same? But that's what we do to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty about Spain. What I discovered there is this is Spanish but Catholic, and I felt at home whenever I was whenever I was in the presence of the faith.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is mine. Why?
Yeah.
Because that's my God.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what we need to have, that unifying factor, which is my brothers and sisters in Christ. We are all of one family, but we all have our different expressions. That different expressions does not mean we change the dogmas, we change the morals, we change what is true. But it means is some people like to wear blue, some people like to wear red, some people are, they're different in their expression, but the unifying factor should be the dogmas and truth of our faith that brings us together, all centered around the mass,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
that's what it should be.
No, you're touching on something that I've just been like super passionate about, especially in the past like year or so, is just like the importance of knowing where you're from and being grounded in who you are in your tradition, and also being able to appreciate the whole bouquet of different traditions throughout the world. But you can only have that bouquet of these different expressions if each person lives out their own uniqueness. Like if everyone becomes the same thing, your bouquet goes away. I think that's like the Saint Therese quote of if everybody was, a rose, then who would be the violet? And it's so important to both be grounded in who you are and in your own traditions and like your flavor of Catholicism so that you can be part of this big bouquet. And then you can also appreciate this bouquet.
But
So,
the thing that binds us together is the mass.
yeah.
The thing that comes together where all of that is put aside.
Hmm.
It's the thing that brings us and makes us all into one, which is we're in the mass and it's not about me. I mean, one of the reasons, I mean, I know you have the Novus Ordo, you have
Hmm.
Latin. I know why I go to Latin Mass.
Hmm.
And one of the reasons why is because I just don't feel like they're trying to appeal to me, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have to. I love the scripture that came to mind is be still and know that I'm God.
Mhm.
So you're present. And if God's present, there's actually what you really don't have to do anything. And I think that's something extremely powerful because that stillness, that quietness, that just, if God is present, which is what we believe, there's nothing to be done
Yeah.
except be present with him. And then, and there's something extremely like even like you have the high mass, a high sung mass, which is, our choir in our church is really, it's, it's, it's world class. And the music is so beautiful. It's lovely. And the pageantry of a high mass and, all the, altar servers and the multiple, priests, deacons, the whole thing going on,
Mhm.
pageantry of it. But sometimes it's the low mass, the silence of it, just sitting there, right? That's the unifying factor. But outside of that, then we have, you know, there's the variety of our cultures. And I think that's the beauty of our faith, which is the Catholic Church doesn't go in and go, hey, let's destroy everything that was here.
Mhm.
Let's see where God is. Let's sanctify it, like the Christmas tree, right? Let's sanctify it, like Rome, right? Let's sanctify it. Let's make this to be Catholic.
No, that was literally the conversations that I was having in Rome of just like how much stuff from the Roman Empire, from you have these Egyptian obelisks that were moved to Rome and stood in Circus Maximus. And then the popes are like, hey, let's put a cross on top and put this outside John Lateran because this is ours now. And just not raising those previous cultures to the ground, but instead discarding what was evil and then retaining what was like aspiring to true good and beautiful. And saying like, no, this is like the Roman church, like in Rome is very Roman. And you have the doors of the Senate on St. John Lateran. Like there's just so much that was baptized by the Catholic Church and accepted by the Catholic Church. And instead of going in and saying, like, no, we reject everything, it's like, what is good that we can incorporate into our expression of faith? And it's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
I think that's something that needs to be understood, not just well, by Catholics, but also by people who are just ignorant of the faith.
Hmm.
I mean, I always so many people, friends say, "You just do what the Pope tells you to do." Like, what? No. I mean, it's just the things that are said, like, and then I have to check myself because I'm like thinking, oh, I used to say the same thing. I used to believe the same stuff. Uh, and to realize like, no, it's you actually become more of a thinker.
Hmm.
You become more introspective. When I was in evangelical born again Protestant, it was really quick. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Look at that miracle. Oh yeah. And whereas the church is like, no, let's investigate this. Let's check this out. Oh, this person's totally possessed. And no. And that level of discernment, that level of slowing down and thinking and assessing and being truly aware of the limitations of humanity, truly aware of the limitations of yourself, truly aware of how easy it is to be deceived, and those things, like all those things, in the way the church approaches um, the spiritual world is uh, really I have come to appreciate because it is so based in the intellect. It's
Hmm.
so based in slowing down and taking a step back and being objective.
Well, and
It's
also in rootedness to truth. Like when somebody is confident in who they are, they can take attacks that coming at them and they can sort through criticism and they don't get shaken by everything that comes at them. And the church is kind of the same way, that you're grounded in the truth. So let's look at this. We have the truth. Let's assess this like miracle. Let's assess this situation. And there's not this like, oh shoot, if this is, I don't know, if this doesn't undermine my faith. Like my faith is rooted, it's grounded. I don't need to be afraid of any attacks that come at me. I don't need to be afraid of being disproved by something that's going on because we know we have the fullness of truth. And so you have that same type of, you can be patient, take your time and discerning when situations arise that I think is a little harder to have if you're not totally grounded in truth.
Yeah, well, truth is what led me to Christ. It's what led me to the church, and I can't, and then also accepting that my personal testimony really doesn't carry much weight. All I can speak for myself. Um, and what led me to desire for truth, and so much of this show is really just simply that. It's desiring to go on a journey for truth of where is the faith in this area, this world, and what do they do in order to really inspire Catholics, say this is who you are.
Yeah.
Right. So if, like, imagine like your family, and your mother sits you down and starts to tell you about your great grand who wrote this or did this amazing thing or participated in this event, and that's my lineage, that's my family. How much more would it give you a greater understanding of who you are in your own personal bloodline? And I think that the same thing is what God is saying, is this is you, we've been adopted and grafted into his family through and by faith. And then now when we learn about, I'm learning about now about Saint Ambrose, and uh, fascinating.
Yeah.
And what a hot fire, nut job, he was, and how he go toe to toe with um Augustine. And I mean, talk about different, right? Or look at, like you said, the little flower in comparison to Padre Pio, who sometimes would kick people out of the confessional because he knew that's what they needed.
Yeah.
You go, this is your lineage, this is your family, this is your tradition. And to see, it's like, again, it's all under the same umbrella. If you don't know who you are, you will become whatever is sounds the coolest in the moment, right? You'll just go with the flow, and who knows what you'll accept?
Yeah.
Who knows where you'll go? It's really a culture war show, but done in a fun way, right? Playful kind of journey way.
No, I really enjoyed the short clip that I saw before this episode. So, and I'll definitely link it in the description too if our audience wants to go there.
Yeah, so discovertradition.org, and you can go on there, and then people could watch it. I think it's, so what we want to do is you can go and watch it. It's at $25, which you're contributing to us making the next episodes. We're a independent, force. And like, look at the Chosen got started because people wanted to see more.
Yeah.
And that's what we're hoping for this. People can go on, contribute, pay, watch it, and then help us to fund the subsequent episodes. Like, we want to go to Mount Michelle. We talk about maybe me going and praying, painting an icon. So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So see how how crazy and weird I am. Now imagine me with a bunch of nuns. I went to Clear Creek in Oklahoma. I drove there from Pennsylvania, and I'd never gone to anything like that. It's a Benedictine monastery, and it's a silent retreat. And I get there, and I had a serious attack of culture shock, and I was trying to find confession, and I went into the wrong place. And everybody, I tried to talk to somebody, no one would talk to me, and I started to get really frustrated. And then finally, I went to the area where I could. They have a gift shop, and you could talk to the brother or one of the priests. And I need a confession. And he comes out, and I'm like, no one's telling me what's going on. Do you have any idea what's going on out there? this is like medieval times with electricity. And he's just looking at me like, come on. And then we went, you go near the guest table, uh, where all the monks are, and they have one monk in the corner that you can't see, but they have a speaker system, and he's reading, but reading in like in chant style. And it was so different. I was holding in my laughter, and it wasn't laughing at them, just at the uniqueness of it all. And then afterwards, you talk with a couple of the priests who are assigned to the guests, and because I'm just so me, all of a sudden the monks they just start making fun of me. So it was like, and all of a sudden, it was like anytime I came along, it was just like, it's like one liners just tearing me down. And I was like, this is great. I'm just being torn down like a couple monks. They just singled me out because I just make myself this big target. They're like, oh yeah, look at that shoot on this one. And it was just like, you did it to yourself, man. It's like, you're right. I did. I deserve it. Oh, that was great. That was great.
I actually had a question about going to Holy Week again in Spain. Did it help you understand your faith better in any way? Did it impact like how you perceive the faith personally?
Yeah, it's a good question, expected question. The answer is yes. Uh, it made me more. I am constantly faced with reasons why I believe, and
Mm,
I think seeing the faith, regardless of culturally how few Spanish in relation to their history actually practice,
mhm,
I was reminded like this is why I believe.
mhm,
Yeah, you know, yeah. I mean, I believe our faith is up. I mean, the devil's been trying to destroy it for 2,000 years. Um, I believe it's up to all scrutiny and, um, but when you see the beauty and you see the pageantry and the expression and the artistry, it just reminds you of why you are a Catholic, or you know, there is a sense of pride in the good way.
mhm,
There's a sense of, again, of being a part of something so much bigger than yourself.
mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it just reminded me of like why I am a Catholic.
no, it's beautiful. Okay, so as a final question, what advice do you have for Americans who are listening who may feel disconnected from tradition and want to, I don't know, be able to reconnect with their roots or start putting little traditions into their like everyday lives, like really want to reconnect with this like 2000 years of history? What advice do you have for them?
Just live the sacramental life.
Mm,
Pray the rosary, live the sacramental life. I would say live the truth, live as if God is actually present.
mm,
Because he is, or he isn't.
mhm,
So if he is, then live like he's present. And that doesn't mean, I mean, hopefully, I mean, I wish I was much further along than I am.
mhm,
Sometimes I wish I was a far different person than I am. It's just am who I am, and it's up to God to make me into who he wants me to be. Um, but ultimately is to live like he's present.
mhm,
And then, I would say go to adoration, go to mass as much as you can. Treat the mass like it deserves to be treated, that God's present. Nothing stopping you from living your faith. Nothing stopping you from examining your conscience, from praying. Nothing stopping you from going to confession. Nothing stopping you from living, the manner and the way in which is pleasing to God, right? It's really like we are the issue, like we get in the way,
Yeah.
right? I'm the problem. I think the more we start focusing on the fact that I'm the problem, and like I say to my kids, I said, if you ever doubt God's love for you, just look at a crucifix.
Mhm.
That's why I don't like crosses. I don't like empty crosses. I don't. I just like, I mean, I I like crucifixes. I like seeing him on the cross because in his reality, he's still on that cross because he's outside of time and space. So, um, yeah, and that's what I would say. Like, learn your faith.
Mhm.
Know who you are, where you come from,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean whether you're American. I was born and raised here.
Mhm.
I'm not Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, but it's my culture.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And then finally, could you repeat for our audience where to find all of this? Because the internet glitched briefly and I think it all got caught earlier, but just in case, I want to make sure that they hear it.
Discovertradition.org.
Okay.
Go there. You could, we need you to pay to see it. It's worth it. And also, it contributes to future episodes.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Austin, for coming on the show and discussing this. I'm very excited to see it. Like I said, I loved the 3-minute clip that I saw ahead of this. And yeah, I love Europe. I love the different traditions and seeing how different parts of the world celebrate the faith. And I'm really excited to see it. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me and putting up with me.
You're welcome. And to all of our audience, please like and subscribe. Definitely go check this out at discovertradition.org and keep on living the culture of life. God bless.